of SAPS and our own database. Based on that, it was confirmed that the person who was in Tanzania at that time is the person who was once in the correctional system of South Africa.
Can I interrupt, Chairperson, through you? I am saying the person, that's why we say the person. Leave that Tanzania story, we've passed that. My question is, have you verified that this person is Thabo Bester before now and now? Or you took a name that came with the warrant and you went to the system and it said Thabo Bester? I'm saying, have you independently verified? If I were to be arrested, I'll have my fingerprints taken, or my ID would be demanded to say, show us your ID, or it's you, so we've got you, and this is your name. I'm asking a simple question. How did you do a different verification to say this person is a Thabo Bester or it's an imposter, a Vusi Khoza, using the name of Thabo Bester? Simple question like that, Commissioner, should be very simple, right?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, this is not, in my view, is not a simple question, and I can explain why. I have indicated in my answer that okay, the first confirmation is that there's no ID identification of Thabo Bester, and he's not the first inmate or offender who is in that category. When they arrive, we take fingerprints, we compare with what we have in the warrant, we take pictures, the mug shots, we file, and we allocate them a correctional services number. And we then track them through the system like that. Of course, the same fingerprints will match the fingerprints that will be there in the SAPS database and throughout the criminal justice system. So that is the basis on which we were able to ascertain that the person who was outside the system is Thabo Bester, as per the information that we have. Now, with regards to further verification, that is what the South African Police Service is busy investigating, and with regards to other particulars of identity, that is what the Department of Home Affairs will also be able to address. But in as far as the correctional system is concerned, the person who is now back in the correctional system is Thabo Bester in terms of the information that we have.
Is a man known as Thabo Bester.
Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, in terms of what the Commissioner says, in terms of our systems, that is our identification. But tomorrow, in the morning, I know the committee might not have that privilege or the time, but the Minister of Home Affairs will have a press briefing to explain exactly who is this person in terms of the national identification system of the country.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Chair. I think what the Minister has just said helps, because the Commissioner was not helping at all. But we shall wait for that press briefing. We heard of the 112 intervention, current litigation, 110 million. Is that for a 2013 incidents and the report that came out?
It is for the 2013 intervention.
All right. Some of the information that I gleaned from that is that there was a gross violation of the rights of inmates. People were brutalized, tortured, etc., etc. What were there consequences for the officials in that prison after that report? I'm sure that report came up with recommendations. Were there consequences for either G4S or the officials that were involved?
There were consequences in line with the concession agreement. And we can provide that information as the department.
Through you, Chair, were certain people and individuals held accountable? When I say held accountable, Officer A and B and X and Y, Z be reported to the police so that the police can investigate for torture. Did G4S do something about their own officials who were involved in such brutal and inhuman violation of inmates' rights? Or justified?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, I have indicated that we can provide the details. At the moment, I do not have them with me, but I know that the outcome of that process came up with recommendations and they were implemented based on the outcome.
So you will provide that in writing?
Yes, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That suffices. In Thabo Besta's cell, no, my former cell, cell 35, an unauthorized laptop was found. No, an authorized, we're told it was an authorized laptop was found that was given to him for his use, and a contraband cell phone that was illegally in there. G4S went on to say that, yes, they would at some point allow laptops for those who are studying, even if that was disputed, to say Thabo Besta finished studies long time ago. Here's my question. This laptop that Besta was using, was it issued by the Department of Correctional Services or was it his own personal laptop? And how did that laptop get into the facility?
I remember yesterday, it was said that it was his personal laptop.
Okay, Chair. I was not sure because I was told at some point that inmates are provided with laptops by the department. So I just wanted to check that at what level, but I understand there was a court case ruling there. And then what shocked me, maybe the officials there can assist me, was to say, what do you do to make sure that that laptop cannot be used for illegal activities? G4S says, no, we just check if it does not have an external modem. I mean, those are things of 2004 when Thabo Besta went to jail or before he was arrested. My understanding, well, the officials there will comment. My understanding is that if you have a laptop that is equipped with Wi-Fi capacity, all Thabo Besta needed was a cell phone, which was found in there with data. He creates a personal hotspots and he does his trading and his criminal activities from there. Any comment?
I agree with the observation, Honorable Chairperson, and that's why we were able to deal with the matter in our investigation report, and that's why the investigation report is recommending that we issue penalties, and that's why at the moment we have taken a temporary management, or we appointed a temporary manager so that we can be able to enhance the security in MMC.
Can you then
Chairperson.
agree that,
Chairperson.
okay, Minister wants to come in.
Honorable Minister.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chairperson. Just to add to the response of the National Commissioner is that you will remember that the inspecting judge said that there's a matter in the Supreme Court of Appeal, because what provide for the inmates to have this kind of facility was that there is a policy of the department that allows them, and the act that says they must study and so forth. But that policy does not say they must have laptops in their cells. It does not allow that. But there's a high court judgment that then said they must have access to the laptop in their cells if they are studying. So that is what we are now appealing, because we don't agree, and we agree with the Honorable Khoza that if someone has a laptop in his or her cell and have with the development of technology and have a cell phone with the high level of smuggling anything is possible. So that's why there's that appeal in the Supreme Court of Appeal on that judgment. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Honourable Khoza.
Minister, for agreeing with me that Bester was allowed to carry on his criminal activities right under the nose of G4S. It was he was either deliberately enabled or they were sleeping on the job. That is obvious. The next question I would want to ask, Bester, when he committed these heinous crimes against women, he was on parole for fraud. He's a fraudster, this one. When he comes in here, the first thing that you should say, close all the possibilities of fraudulent activities. He gets a cell phone in his cell. He gives a name that cannot be verified. He carries on trading. I would have expected that an extra care, particularly in the issues of technology, would have been taken to ensure that Bester does not carry on with his activities. However, my question is this. I was just commenting. My question is, when he was paroled, can you confirm that his parole was genuine or it was bought? Because for one to be able to pull such a huge scam right under everybody's nose is either he's extremely connected or he is moneyed. So can we go back to his parole for the initial fraud? Surely his fraud had to do with money. So this boy has always been moneyed from the look of things. Can you confirm that his parole was genuine, or you're not sure whether it was bought or genuine? Any comment?
I can confirm, Honorable Chairperson, through you, that this parole was genuine.
Based on?
Based on parole processes that are independent of influence from the department, based on the sentence plan that would have been implemented, and of course, as I've indicated, based on the system itself, the parole system.
Can we rule out influence of money? You are saying it's independent without influence, but can we rule out influence of money in the parole system? Can you stand here firm and say, I am ruling out the possibility of the influence of money in the parole system? Commissioner.
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, if there are instances like those, they are reported and we deal with them. But I would not sit here and speculate whether there's influence of money or not. What I'm definitely saying is that our parole processes are above board. If there is an allegation of corruption or any type of influence that is driven by financial gain, that can be brought before us. We'll look into that and we'll attend to it.
2 minutes left.
Chair, I want to move quickly to the track and trace team. Who made up the track and trace team? Were there private security companies involved?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, there were no private security companies involved. The track and tracing team was made up of officials of government, mainly from correctional services.
Okay, no, that's fine. We'll check on that. The partners in the consortium each have got 20%. You said that there are attachments to this report. Is there an attachment to this report that you said will be made available that breaks down each and every party to the consortium in terms of who are the registered directors, et cetera, giving specific details? Is that in your report or not there?
That breakdown is not in the report. It's the breakdown that we will provide to the committee through you, Honorable Chairperson.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I would love to do that. In closing, this I'm directing to the Minister. Mr. Minister, our prisons have a population of 157,135 and overcrowding of 44.42%. It means they contain more than double the amount, almost more than double the amount that they're supposed to contain. Is that in line with best international practices? Maybe I can throw in this one so that you can get a chance to respond because the chair will cut me. Is that in line with the international standards and best practices? Maybe let me stop there for now. Thank you, so that you can be able to respond. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chairperson. As you are aware, the prisons are governed by the Nelson Mandela rules of treatment of inmates and so forth. It is not in line, but there is no country in the world that does not have overcrowding. It's just a degree of overcrowding. Maybe there could be one or two, but it's a general norm across the globe. Overcrowding is a challenge for all states. And with us, it has been proven over time that we may not be able to develop infrastructure at the same pace as the courts are convicting people. Hence, this private-public partnership arrangement was conceptualized at a time to help with the situation of overcrowding and to build bed space capacity within a very short period of time. And we can say that was achieved because almost 5,000 bed and space within a short period of time was done. We have the benefit of the infrastructure. The issue is whether in terms of the operating contracts, the costs, which were struggling to sustain. And it is for that reason that we do not want to continue with this model. And we announced earlier because we felt that it's not sustainable on our side. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Minister. On a light note, are you saying that there is overcrowding at Vatican City?
No, I don't want to be accused of blasphemy, Chairperson.
So one question that arises out of what Honorable Khoza has said, with all the lapses that happened, especially with the issues of computer and internet, don't you think that those are some of the things that might also contribute or might have contributed in us getting grey-listed? If you have security facilities that are so vulnerable, that can also be vulnerable to money laundering and even terrorist planning, don't you think that that is a potential threat to national security and even how international world sees us?
Yeah, Chairperson, you will remember that on the issues of grey listing, they did point to the issues that we must attend to. Money wiring, fraud, laundering, that as and when it happens, it must be followed up, there must be arrest, it must be nipped as quickly as possible. So, and it is within the context of safety and security that you will have seen from the presentation that we are in engagement with the CSIR to help us to deal with this thing of the cell phones in the facilities. While we have the technology to detect, for example, like in Mangaung, in Hoshimampuru, and others of our facilities, but the human element always comes in, where there is this contraband, smuggling, and so forth. So that's why we're looking at CSIR to help us to develop a system that can enable us to block and so forth, and also while we comply with the laws, ICASA regulations and so forth, because some of the issues that arose is that if you block, you might block the entire place and communities, because if you remember the correctional facilities, there are also families that reside there and so forth. So you might block everyone from communicating. So it affects also the ICASA regulations. So we'll need also to apply with ICASA. But what I can assure the committee is that there is work that we are doing with the CSIR to find a technology solution to this challenge of cell phones or communications with the outside world by the inmates? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jancher.
Thank you, Chair. Tot ziens, dear. It's late in the evening, Chair, and I'm in a position that I don't like because I have two risks I'm starting with that I would have missed the question posed and the interaction to allow my role of pick it up at the end. And the second risk is that I might be repeating things. And for that, Chair, to apologize, I think I did indicate to you, I had to attend an urgent matter that I needed to attend. And I would like, I'll therefore, as a way of not keeping everybody, perhaps to limit the issues. And maybe National Commissioner, if we can walk back before you took over as a National Commissioner in this space, whether it's a BCC or MCC. My understanding is that there would have been an investigation that was done which involves your human rights people, Commissioner Chris Nissan and the department, and out of that there would have been a report that would have been compiled. As part of the handover and what you inherited, are you aware of that report?
I am aware of the report, and I must also indicate through you, Honorable Chairperson, that there was no handover. It is the reports that you would be aware of as you continue to do your work, and you try and see how you then accommodate the recommendations and what has been done from what comes out of those reports, and you include that in improving the environment as you move on.
No, thank you. Fair. I accept that, it's not all in that space. In this room, we're talking about tensions of handover, so it seems to be inherent in this. But I do know, just to go back to the handover, even a few days ago, I was reading, I have it at home, I was reading this handover report by the previous National Commissioner. It's in a document, so I don't know who it was given to, but I was browsing this handover report. But I'm not going to go there, since you indicated that there was no proper handover. But the issue I'm going back to start with is that report that you are aware would have had recommendations of things that needed to be done. And having taken over, are you able to talk to us about the implementation of those recommendations? Because it's a report that would have spoken, again, I'm staying on my issue, Chair. The report would have spoken on the systematic deficiencies, including issues of personnel in the space that we're talking about. Whatever its imperfections and limitations, but it had recommendations that needed to be attended to. Some would have included, in relation to this contract, in this concession, who the director was part of the supervisory committee and so on, and a lot of others. So my question to start is, have those recommendations been implemented?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, I did indicate in my first answer that I am aware of the reports, including the handover report of the former National Commissioner. The process is what I alluded to when I was talking about the handover process. And I indicated also in my previous answer that in assessing whether those recommendations were implemented, one looked at the improvements that were put into the system. And earlier on in the discussion, I can just give an example. One of those was to make it a point that the supervisory committee works. And the challenge there was that a member of the supervisory committee, who's an external member, resigned. And when the former National Commissioner left, he had started the process of appointment of the external member of the supervisory committee. We went through the process. We couldn't get the correct candidate. We had to re-advertise again. So there are those specifics where one would say that we were able to implement the recommendations. Earlier on, I spoke to the fact that through that handover report, there was a recommendation that in as much as you have got a contractual control and management process that is in the hands of the director contract management, we need to make it a point that at an operational level, there is a way for the reports on operations to come through to the management of correctional services. Hence, we then opened a line through the region that when they give us statistics and reports on operational matters, they must also include Mangaung. Even on our performance with regards to the annual report, we include Mangaung as part of the region, Free State, Northern Cape. And I did indicate also that on a weekly basis when we review the incidents, Mangaung is also included, MCC is also included. So it is out of those recommendations from the handover report by the former National Commissioner, but also a specific investigation report that was produced through the work that was done at Mangaung. There was a time that the department spent more than a month at Mangaung through different interventions led by the former National Commissioner. And that even led to the appointment of a chief deputy commissioner responsible for incarceration and corrections as the overall overseer of the two triple P contracts. And that is where also the initial idea of looking at a takeover came through.
Thank you for that response, NC. Maybe just before we leave there, can you then, in your own way, summarize and say, these were the recommendations, I'm looking for a scorecard here, that these were recommendations that you inherited and compared to what we have today and what we're dealing with in relation to this particular issue. Are you in a position to say there's one or two areas where we would have done better in relation to those recommendations? Or are you of the view that you have gone beyond that and you have actually become even better innovative? So that we leave that point. I want to be satisfied in that.
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, one of the areas of weakness, and it's an area that we have to attend to, is the annual reviews. Because as the supervisory committee meets to deal with the penalties that would have been imposed, every year there has to be an annual review of the contract, and that is what has not been done, and that is what we need to do.
Chair, as I leave that point, just as a small commentary. Thank you, National Commissioner. This point is important because even across departments, every year you've got action list and recommendations of the Auditor General. And there gets to be no attention to these issues, and we go back to the next process and deal with the same problems. So it is important that when you deal with this issue, looking back and walking back is important so that we're able to close those gaps. But I'm satisfied with the response. The next point, perhaps to invite the minister here. What has been demonstrated in the last 2 days, and I just want your comment, Minister. What has been demonstrated in the last 2 days is a silo approach between the different role players in this security setup. It's not even a silo. It's littered with tensions and everything else, at the expense of work being done. Demonstrated in feet dragging, blame game. We have listened to the reports here. Those themes run through. And so the issue for me to get to the minister perhaps commenting on this, because in this space, all of these role players needed to be coordinated by a particular center. Are you happy that we are going to be closing these 2 days, having received these reports, and we are seeing these gaps of almost lack of cooperation on this administration of justice in these corrections and some of the essential issues that we have seen?
Yeah, it is for that reason, Honorable Janji, that you will have heard me saying, for example, tomorrow Home Affairs will be giving a briefing on the issue of the national identification. It's because when we realize that there is no proper coordination, we then coordinated that. And since that coordination started in late March, there has been a lot of improvement between the various security cluster departments. And I think the experience we are gaining from this, we will obviously have to enhance it in the cluster coordination overall.
Thanks, Minister. Maybe to go back to the NC, there are a lot of loopholes in the system that has been demonstrated here by various reports. In particular, because the core mandate of this department is rehabilitation. That's the core, because that's why it's correctional centers and not prisons. But the biggest budget item of this is incarceration. If you have a budget of 25 billion, about 15 billion, it was 15.1 billion this year. That just goes on to one program, incarceration, less than what it was in the previous year. And yet what we have been dealing with here in the last 2 days, it's about problems in that program, which makes me to argue that the problem is not money. The biggest source of money is thrown into this program, but we remain with problems. How to fix that?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, I agree that we are investing quite a sizable or biggest chunk of the budget of the department on incarceration, because we have to create conditions that are, humane and safe for offenders. But we are doing that at the backdrop of the issue that was discussed before, the issue of overcrowding and its impact the issue of the state of our correctional facilities. Almost all of them cannot even carry the numbers that they are carrying because they are outrightly, dilapidated. We're talking at the backdrop of a ratio of correctional security officials that is way lower than it's supposed to be against the ratio of the offenders that we're dealing with. We're talking about applying that budget on a profile of offenders that has changed over years. Actually, the number of offenders that are saving life has dramatically increased. Now, and hence we are not getting the value for money that we're supposed to be getting. The system itself, I would say, suffocates the interventions that we are implementing in the incarceration space. Now, if we were to move more of the funds into rehabilitation, we would actually be weakening the impact of rehabilitation. And I can give an example to that. If we are to take offenders to the farm to go and practice their skills on agriculture, you need to have security officers there and agricultural technicians. Now, we just had an escape last week in Brantford, where 2 offenders escaped when they were at the farm. They were looked after by 2 officials, and those offenders were around 37. And those are the types of ratios that I'm talking about, and that's why every time we make this submission to National Treasury that the more you have the success of the criminal justice system, giving us more offenders to look after, with this mandate that we need to incarcerate them under humane and safe conditions and at the same time rehabilitate them. Please be aware of the fact that when we increase the numbers on the side of the police, when we increase the numbers on the side of prosecutors, you also need to look at the budgetary needs of the Department of Correctional Services, and that's a reality. Now, you have a situation where the whole value chain succeeds up to a point where we have these offenders in our facilities. But I'm talking about those that are inside the facilities. We have another big problem which is the offenders that are now in the parole system that would need to be monitored on a regular basis. And when you look at the numbers that are monitoring these offenders, and again we go back to the profile, and these matters are not reported too widely in any case in the media. We have our officials getting shot at by parolees because those offenders that would have been paroled, having served their sentences, end up, with a community that presents them with challenges, and they ended up going back to the crime rings and all. So it's a really involved and deep-seated problem that we will not be able to deal with as the correctional system alone. We need that alignment.
I like what I'm hearing, but I'm going to stop it. I like what I'm hearing, and hopefully you are going to, Chair, we are going to interact, because as I end, the chairperson is a champion, and we are in the same space of this issue of saying to Treasury and everybody else, they must stop these budget cuts in the security cluster. Because before you grow it, you've got to stop first the budget cuts. So you're speaking to the converted. But I've not heard that, what you're saying today, in terms of how we deal with that. But the question that comes when you put that on the table, and I'll demonstrate with what comes out of your report, is an argument that says,
You have 1 minute.
yes, you can't deal and manage even what you have. Here you have presented to us 18 breaches of a contract, 18. 18 breaches, you've listed all of them. Besides you seeking legal opinion, I have not heard you you don't seem shocked by the 18 breaches. I mean, in any standard, anywhere, in a contractual relationship, that you have these 18 breaches, supposed to mean that there's a non-existence of this relationship. What is your take about this? You've listed them to us unless you wanted us to just know. What does this mean in relation to, as we live here today, these 18 breaches still exist tonight at MCC in the manner that you have listed them? What are you saying to this committee? And that's where I'm landing, Chair. Thank you, National Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The current state of affairs at MMC, Mangaung Correctional Center, is that the director who was responsible for managing that center has been removed, and we've installed a temporary manager. Now, we installed a temporary manager after less than 10 days of receiving this report of these breaches. We received the report on the 22nd, and we installed the temporary manager on the 30th of March. And we presented to the portfolio committee a plan that we are implementing on how we are addressing those security breaches, including re-looking at the issue of the fact that some of the cameras do not cover the extent at which they're supposed to cover, including ensuring that we improve the technology there so that you don't have any person having the ability to switch on, switch off, or change the direction of cameras. Those are the issues that we will address. I would say that we acted with the required speed, and G4S is saying that we are not supposed to be there. They have taken us on a legal route, and we've responded to that because we are convinced that what we are doing is correct. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, Commissioner. I would not say that we have come to the conclusion of our meeting. We are just going to adjourn or take a pause, as Honorable Janji always say. One, we have received some documents from G4S that we need to go through. Mr. Ramano here was very fascinated by this document. He has been ticking quite a lot of things that he thinks that they need to be looked at. So we would need time to look at this document. And in addition to that, I think there were other additional, in fact, there's other additional information that members requested today. We will need to get that information also. Then as a committee, we will sit, and after we have gone through the relevant information, to say what is our next course of action. Do we invite G4S or anybody who is here for further information in the form of a meeting? Are we going to be satisfied with the information that we would have read in the documentation that we would have received? There was also a request that I think that was made by Honorable Breitenbach, and I think there was no objection to that request, that we need to hear from the technicians from Integron, not the people who were here. We will still have to discuss how do we process that, which means that we will have to find time in our program, parliamentary program, outside of constituency period. And then outside of the budget process, because we have a seriously congested budget process. Things as they are now, we will be debating the Office of the Chief Justice. What is the date? On the 9th. which means we should have already had budget hearings of the Office of the Chief Justice. We need to meet with the Chief Justice on the 5th. We've got 10 other entities to meet. We've got pressing legislation, including JICS one, that we need to take a position as to whether we would allow all the cabinet processes or we would have to take a different route. So we'll take all of those things into consideration and read the information before us. After that, we can have proper deliberations, because the report out of this process would need to go to the House for a report and debate. So we would need to have clear recommendations to the House. So we can't go to the House with half-baked information. So we will need to be sure that the information we have, to the best of our knowledge, is the information that we are satisfied that we can advise the House properly. But I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody, to thank the ministers, deputy ministers, the judge, all the senior officials that are here from all the departments, members for good behavior. Generally, yes, there were those exceptions. Would improve on those exceptions. But thank you very much. This is a process that was necessary. It's a process, in fact, what happened goes to the heart of the challenges that faces our country. As Parliament, we had to pass 3 GBV bills within a short space of time, because women of our country are being killed, they are being, there's a lot of violence, emotionally and otherwise, but more importantly, there is physical violence on women of our country. So the country is under threat. So when this thing happened, all of us felt threatened. Not only women of our country, but they are part of us. When they get raped, it's part of who we are. These are our mothers, these are our sisters, these are our wives, these are our girlfriends. So they are part of who we are. So for spending all this time trying to go to the root of the problem was not a time wasted. But also I would like to thank you for the spirit with which you have participated in this meeting. Sometimes it was a little bit hot, but there was also a lot of humor. The minister was very humorous. With I won't repeat it. Others, there's another one that is trending on the social media. What is it? No, not the other one. The criminal record. Yeah, the other ones that I'm a South African by a criminal record. So it's ngesixhosa bathi kuyahlekwa noba sekufiwe noba sekubhujiwe. Thank you very much, colleagues. So we will inform everybody if there's a need to meet again, but there will be, I think the Intercreton would need us to have a further meeting. We might give other people to maybe to do some rebuttals, but that will be communicated to all of you. So I hope that G4S, you were heavily entertained here. There is no need for summons. These are very warm people. It's good company to have. So next time, I think an invitation will suffice. Integritan also wanted to join G4S. We are coming, but would like to be summoned. I think you stayed with us for 2 days. Very warm environment. It's just accountability in action, because that is one of the tenets of our democracy. Thank you very much.